wanted to start with each one of you to really talk about that and how it impacts your life and what that really means as we talk about living in color. Let's start with you, Eric.
Hello, everybody. Hope everyone's good. For me, what it means to live an authentic life really is just truly being truthful to yourself and who you are. That's like the generic answer everybody says. But I think for me, I just want to walk out the door and be happy in my own skin. I think a lot of times there are a lot of stigmas or titles and things that we place on each other, but being authentic is just being happy with who you are, making sure that what you're doing it for a purpose. I always say, as you guys see yesterday, a helicopter just was on a building just out of nowhere. Life is very short. So while we're here, I just think being comfortable in your skin, being happy, being authentic, being truthful to who you are is the most important thing.
Ryan?
Paula, this is going to be really hard for you, being at the end. Everything Eric said, I think it's being genuine, it's acting with integrity, and it's understanding who you are, who you want to be, and who you're going to become. And I think until you can recognize and understand those traits and elements of your own individual personality, it's going to be hard for you to interact with anybody else on any different platform. If you don't understand what drives you and what motivates you and what your goals are and how you can fulfill those goals, then how are you going to be able to communicate and to love and to respect one another and anybody else's goals? So really just understanding what drives you, how to be genuine, and how to act with integrity and honestly.
So, good afternoon or evening, everyone. My definition is a little different. I have to live and thrive in corporate America, so my living authentically is really a cost-benefit analysis to me. So there are times when someone will ask me what my husband does, and I'm client-facing, and I'll say, he's a doctor, right? And then I'm probably never going to see this person again, but those that I interact with on a daily basis know who I am. And I think, to my prior panelist's point, you have to really assess very quickly what your values and the core of who you are when you step out into the world. And if you could lay your head at night and say, I've abided by that, then you're living authentically.
Marco, you're on TV and you have to share out your life with that. So what does that mean for you in life?
Boy, you asked me another question.
It's the same question. It's deep. I just want to give context for people to see.
Hey, y'all. Authentic, like to piggyback off what I said, I think it is the patience to keep doing the research on yourself, to really learn yourself, because you can't be authentic if you really don't know and understand yourself, as they were saying. So just being patient and taking those risks and taking those thrives to truly be one with yourself and self-love, so you can spread that love authentically to everybody else. So I think it's just the patience and the research of your own self to learn yourself, to love other people.
Well, thanks, guys. I think it's really unique and individual, and I think that being authentic, for me at least, is following a path or trying to find what that path is, and within that, still keeping true to myself, my moral guidelines, and falling within a set amount of rules. I wouldn't call them rules because we spoke about that earlier. There are no rules, but I think it's just about following this sense of individuality where you're not hurting anyone, you're not putting yourself in a dangerous situation, but still maintaining a sense of self. So just keeping true to yourself, I guess.
Thank you. So I have a diverse, as you see, this is a diverse group of individuals. They represent all parts of the LGBTQ plus community. So at this point, I just wanted to actually give some advice and talk about advice for people that are actually members of the community, but also allies. So this is primarily for the guys itself. My question, we fill these questions out from different people on social media, and a lot of people said for a young gay man, what advice do you offer to someone or who has a loved one who just came out? how do you support them? Primarily for the guys, like, because that was the thing when it comes to toxic masculinity, and guys being afraid to just embrace their sexuality. That's a struggle now, and what it means to be a man. Brian, you want to start?
Sure. I definitely think for, the person who just came out, understand that there are so many levels within your sexuality and your identity and how you present yourself and how you present in front of others in everyday life. And being uncertain is okay. Not knowing, what your authentic or unique self is straight out of the gate is fine. And I think for anybody who is in the capacity to support that individual, understanding and memorializing that there's a level of uncertainty for that individual, and I'm sure that you also have a level of uncertainty, is okay. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to, start a dialogue to try to better understand and to try to support, because without creating that dialogue, you're not going to be able to move forward. And, for the individual who is thinking about coming out, chances are, and I can speak from personal experience, that you just want somebody to talk to. You want somebody to unpack all of that information and understand how it, is going to reflect in your life. And without being able to have those open conversations and to truly understand, it's going to be so much harder to move forward.
You want to add to it?
Yeah, I would agree. I think the biggest thing is just to listen without judgment. Sometimes they just want to vent. Sometimes they don't even know what the fuck they want to hear or wonder what they're talking about. But they just want to. Oh, can I cuss?
Too late.
Let me know now, because I cuss a lot. All right, no, but just like listening and just hearing them vent and hearing them cry and just being patient with them. And sometimes they don't want to have an answer, like they're not looking to hear anything. They just want to hear themselves. And once they hear themselves, they're just like, oh, shit, I didn't think about that. And they kind of just like have this recollection and then just, I don't know, like they just form into who themselves, like I was saying earlier. So just listening without judgment, I would say.
For the late
Just a little bit to add. I think for me, just being honest with them that it's hard. I think, for me coming out and things like that, having friends who are gay, they're like, oh, it's a huge release off of your shoulder, you feel great, all this type of stuff, but that's hard. Like, it's really, really hard. And I think for us to just, sometimes people who are already come out, we kind of put pressure, oh, you should do this, or go ahead, you need to live your best life, but just understanding that what people have to go through mentally, internalizing things, from acceptance to your parents. I just want them, you got to be honest with them. Just let them know this is going to be hard. It will get better. It will be different, and you will get through it. But, sometimes you got to shoot it to them straight.
Yeah.
Let them know that, you're going to be through some tough stuff, but, there's going to be people there for you.
Monique and Paula, can you give some insight on how to embrace somebody in that aspect? How can you teach a loved one to embrace someone who's struggling with that, especially at this young age?
So I'll take that from a couple different angles, right? Embracing the one who's coming out and embracing the one who's receiving the information, right? I think we need to be sensitive to the fact that my mom never imagined this life for me, right? There's a struggle there. There's an internal journey that's happening to those who are receiving the information. And it's not black and white. So the recommendation is live in the gray, right? Take those few moments that your parents are actually, I remember a heartbreak that I had, and I was like, Mom, this really hurts, right? And my mom just had to sit there for a minute. I was like, I need you to be Mom. I need you to take the Catholicism and Christianity out of it and be there, right? So living in the gray for those receiving the information. And for those actually coming out, there's a lot of patience, and it's okay to be authentic. I've never, asked anyone not to be. But there are also consequences to it, and there is going to be a pushback, and there is going to be reactions to it, and to embrace that person and let them know it gets better, As you get older, you get more confident about it, right? You can say a little more, but in the beginning, it is very hard.
Follow.
To piggyback off of that, I think for someone receiving the information, I think being informed is really important. Even if it's a shock, sure, you just found this thing out. Take a moment, give yourself the space. Say, I just need to process this. I'm gonna be more informed. I'm sorry I can't give you an opinion right now, because opinions can be really painful, especially if you're taking this jump, this risk, by telling someone like coming out. I think as a person receiving it, you should just hold off, come back, inform yourself. What does this mean emotionally? What does this mean physically? What does this mean socially? How am I present for this person? How can I be there? But as for coming out, I think it's really individual. I think everyone deals with it in such a different way that it's really tough to kind of put a cap on it. It's for me at least, like my mom still doesn't understand my sexuality, and I think that being able to cope with that and being able to kind of personally agree with it, or not even agree, just kind of live through it is one of the hardest things, but also one of the most liberating things.
To add to that question, Paula, you identify as a bisexual woman, married, live a whole great quality of life, living your great life, but oftentimes when we think of bisexuality, or especially when it relates to women, they think of phases, that for men it's a gay man, or queer, or something like that, but for women it's often like, oh, she's dipping in the lady pond, or doing whatever, just having fun, and she can get married and live a great life, and there's no judgment there. So, do you feel that there are phases with sexuality?
Of course, I think sexuality in itself, I wouldn't call it a phase. I would just call it a facet. I would call it a side of this like giant sphere.
Yeah.
I think that being or identifying, I don't really identify as bisexual, I identify as me.
Yeah.
It's really tough to, in a queer space, to say I'm bisexual, because instantly people are like, oh, well, you're not a lesbian because da-da-da, or you're not this because whatever reasons. And that often comes with these like negative connotations and unsure of yourself. And I'm really confident in my sexuality. And I think that the hardest part about existing in this space is getting people to understand it. And I don't know, I lost the question.
Monique, you want to add to that? Being a woman who's married to a woman, living a great life out there, is when you hear that, do you feel that no, this is my life? Or did you battle with that as well? And you decided you were going to be a lesbian by definition?
Yeah. So phases is a tough word, right? Because it means there's like a beginning and an end to it. One of the things I kind of say is, just generally speaking, if you're engaging in the same sexual activity at 70 that you were engaging in at 20, then cheers, right? Good job for you. I think less of phases and more of experiences in life. And I think anyone who experiences life in just different, you're not who you were in your 20s, 30s, 40s going forward. And when it comes to the person that you love, you want to feel like they chose you. You want to feel like they've experienced all these things and all these people, but they chose you to spend the rest of their life with, right? So phases or no phases, you still need to do the due diligence around who it is that you're going to love and what you want to do.
So this question is for everyone as we talk about doing what you want to do and living your life. So what struggles as you guys actually grew and started working and get into the professional space, some of you in the spotlight, starting your own businesses, what are some of the personal struggles that came with living that authentic life, being prideful for who you are as it relates to your sexuality? Yeah.
Well, no, we don't got that much time. I got a whole bunch of struggles. But I'll just do a couple. One is my platform. So again, I am I created a platform called the Quintessential Gentleman, which is a platform that focuses on the positive achievements of men of color. And one of my biggest struggles was not wanting to be in the forefront of the publication or the media platform, because I did not want people to think, oh, this is a gay platform, or this is only for gay men, or this is whatever. And I struggle with that, constantly talking to people, my publicists, everything. Like, how do I make sure that they know that this publication is it's about me, but there's different pieces of me that everybody, can be a part of, or the platform can talk to. So it's a platform for men of color, regardless of what you identify as. So that was one big struggle. And then another struggle for me was also, coming into this community and realizing that, I just thought, gay was you like the same sex, but not realizing that it's a lifestyle. It's a community. There's lingos. I didn't know nothing. Like people saying something like, what? So, me wanting to make sure that I'm staying authentic to myself, but also not judging others. I may not say certain terms or vernaculars that others say, but I'm still a gay man. And also that doesn't mean that I'm a woman or that I want to be a woman or anything. I'm a gay man or a man that likes men. So that was, a couple of the struggles that I had to go through.
So I'm originally from Washington State, and when I started, it came out, if you will, like when I got into college. But I went to such a small liberal arts college that there was no real sense of like a gay community or an LGBT plus community, and so I didn't really know what that meant until I moved to New York. And I was, like you said, I was like, wow, there's like a culture here, and I'm surrounded by people, and people are there to support you. But thinking back to Washington, I used to work for an organization who promoted Christian beliefs. And, I had spent a good 6 to 7 years there, and I worked for a supervisor at one point who knew at one point that I identified as gay and tried to have me fired.
What?
And so I was like, well, that's not going to happen. And luckily, moved through my career in that sense until I moved out to New York, but that will always kind of resonate with me. It's like we still face this level of discrimination within our community at a level. It's like, I'm here to make your job easier, and you want to get rid of me? I don't understand that. But then thinking about, I'm in my current position in meetings with, associate vice presidents and executive directors and people who oversee all of these changes, and there's always still that kind of air, like, because I identify as the way I do, my opinion has a lesser value than that of yours because you're a straight male or you identify in a way that is different. And so I think, and I'm sure you're going to touch on this in the corporate world, but moving through your professional career, like you said, you really have to be so keen at making those split-second decisions on, can I be authentic here? Like, what is this going to do for my career? What is this going to do for me as a person? And unfortunately, and especially in today's society and our political atmosphere at this point, we have to be more cognizant of that than we were 4 years ago.
Monique, I want you to address it more from where your landscape of your job, like the corporate space that you occupy, the obstacles,
So I think early on in my career, I made it a point to be very private about my life, about what I did. No one ever knew. And then I became that weird kid who never spoke. And I was like, how's your weekend? Fine, thanks, gotta do work, bye, right? And I think across entire platforms, doesn't matter what you do, some people want to work with people who they get along with, who they can have a conversation, who they can share personal aspects of it. So the challenge there was convincing people that I was trustworthy, listening to all your problems, but never sharing anything about me, right? And that created actually a career pause, right? I had to assess what is it that I wanted and how I was going to go about it. The other piece of it is feeling like a sellout, right? Feeling like I'm hiding myself, feeling like, oh, I'm going to act uber straight, or I'm going to do this to try to fit in, or wear certain clothes, and really, rumbling with, is that the authentic me, right? And then coming to peace with, this is my livelihood, I'm okay with this, and when I go home, every weekend it's sweatpants Saturday, right? And it's like whatever I want to wear and I'm comfortable with that. So, perception, image, those were the main obstacles.
And Marco, from a social point of view, as a fraternity guy, you are a frat guy, guys all around, like friends for years. So when you made a decision to say, hey, I'm in a relationship, I'm out there, what was the struggles that came with that? Being in the spotlight for years of being known as one person, trying to break those barriers.
I think the main struggle was me not knowing what the hell was the issue was.
Right.
Like I was a pretty confident person. I had a great support system, whether it be my family and my friends and my loved ones, my boo right there, like everybody. But it just, I couldn't find the courage to say that, oh, I'm dating this guy, instead of saying that day, that famous day, or that. I hate that, but like I couldn't put a nail to it. I just couldn't do it. And I think that was my biggest struggle, that little voice in my head. And that was kind of like stopping me from doing things more than just coming out, but just dipping into my creative side and just like you said, socially, just with people, like in my business, with my relationship and everything like that. I don't really care. I have really a good foundation when it comes to myself, and I'm pretty confident in myself. So my biggest struggle was, who the hell is this little person in my head telling me that I cannot be who I am? Nobody in this world is telling me that I can't be, like, directly. Maybe indirectly with everybody in this messed up world, but nobody that I knew personally was telling me that I couldn't be myself. And they were always giving me like context clues, like, baby, you already know. I'm on to the side, but like, you know what that meant? I was just like a deer in headlights, just kind of stuck, Don't be lying, y'all like my outfit. Hey. Shout out to Houston over there.
This is casual. And there's nothing wrong.
Clearly I didn't get the casual memo, but no, it was just that little voice in my head telling me that I wasn't shit, but I am the shit, so
Shining suit, man. Paula, you're married, you have the perfect life, and you're creative, and everything of that nature. So what is the struggles when you start having those conversations with other people about how fun you are?
Well, I think I identify as a bisexual woman, and I am married to a straight man, and we are in an open marriage. And I think that adds a whole lot of conversation to any kind of dynamic, right? And I think it's getting people to understand what that means for me. Having to explain it, it's like not something that you can just kind of touch in and say like, well, I'm married, I'm bisexual, in an open relationship, great, like have a great day. There's always just kind of like what, like the what the fuck moment, and especially it leaves me kind of floundering in the communities where people don't want to accept what this means for me, or they question it so much where I feel attacked, or I feel kind of the need to be defensive. And the way, within my marriage itself, it's constantly shifting. There isn't a set thing. We have to communicate at all times. And I think that my biggest struggle is finding someone to connect with that isn't within my relationship. A community to just be like, hey, this is what's going on, this is my marriage, this is my relationship outside of my marriage, this is my sexuality. And I think within the queer community and in our queer space, there's a lot of stigmas. There's a lot of things that when I show up to a pride thing, they're like, you don't belong here. Like, you're a bisexual, like, go home to your husband or go do this. And it's like, well, I belong here because I still struggle with the same things. I still have to find someone to identify with. I still need a friend to say like, man, today at work I said this to someone and they were like, what are you talking about, And even coming out, if I can say coming out, because my parents still don't understand what that means to me, right? And I think those were like the hurdles within my sexuality, just finding the core of myself and being able to explain that to people.
So I want to shift the conversation and talk about pride. Pride is a moment where we're looking at celebrating who you are, diversity, celebrating inclusiveness, just celebrating the growth of the community in whole and people that want to support it.